Welcome one and all to another brand new episode of Undisputed Nerds. I am your host, Zane Reed, also known as Zane Tai Show. I'm the captain. That's what that means, if you didn't know. That rhymed. Wow. As always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, the Gentlemanly Gamer. How are you, good sir?
Hello, everyone in Radio Land. Zane, unfortunately, is coming to you this week with a broken arm after patting himself on the back so much for making that rhyme. Good evening. I hope everyone is well. We are currently filming this on a cold, wintry night in November. Zane, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's, believe it or not, it's Black Friday, from what the internet tells me anyway. So loads of deals on. Have you got anything from Amazon yet?
No, not yet. I had my eyes set on.
Other retailers are available?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. No, I haven't bought anything from the fabulous retailer Amazon, sponsor us. No. Other retailers are available, including but not limited to. No. I almost, I'm going to buy a rowing machine. I've seen a couple of rowing machines that I want to get. I need to get healthy because I'm amorphously overweight at the moment. So for those of you not watching, you can't see my blob-like head. So yes, that's what I will be buying. What about you? What kind of you're a hot little tech boy. What kind of hot tech are you going to be getting?
As a hot tech boy,
that's what you should change your name to.
I'm always in need of USB cables, all types: USB Type C, Type B, 3 meters,
that was one of the
2
most
meters.
Boring. Like I genuinely thought you were going to go out there and say like some kind of crazy gadget, and then you were just like a USB cable. That's one of the most boring things that you could have possibly suggested.
Hey, don't you dare put disrespect on my drawer of USB cables, okay?
Hey. Okay. Whoa. Wow. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've been doing this. I've known Zane for many years now, many years, and I've been doing this for a little while with him. I've never seen him get as angry as he just got then. That was a fiery fury behind those eyes.
Pride and joy, man's drawer of cables, and mine happen to be perfect USB cables. Some of them have.
Have they got those twizzle ties around them as well?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god, you heard it here first, folks. Don't ever insult his cable drawer, or the hair's coming down and he's going super cyan on everyone.
I've got the ones that have that nylon, like, the ribbon, not ribbon, but the weaving.
This conversation just took a turn. Yeah, sure, I know the ones you mean. Yeah, ribbed for his pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. That's what these cables are. Anyway,
this got dark very quick.
It did get dark very quick. I'm impressed. That was it's like barely 4 minutes in, and we've already gone down the dark USB cable route. But yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad that you're using Black Friday as a valuable resource to add to your already stacked drawer of USB cables. But yes, I will be buying a rowing machine. I need to get a silent one so that I don't disturb the. What was that? I need to get a silent one so I don't disturb the people downstairs because there is a flat below us. So we shall see. Yeah, my fat ass gliding back and forth. I don't know if there's any way we can avoid it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway,
it may be worth mentioning we are live on YouTube right now as well.
Yeah, if you want to come and have a look at my fat ass, we're live on YouTube right now as well. There'll be a VOD up as well if anyone wants to check it out. But if not, if you're listening on the podcasting means, you're better off just listening to my voice, to be honest with you. You don't want to see this face. So it's a face built for radio, let me tell you that. Anyway, should we get into the news?
Yeah, let's jump into some news. Ladies and gentlemen, the Gentlemanly Gamer, GG, is one hell of a news hound, and he's done his best at collecting some tips and bits. So if you could, give us some tips and bits, please.
We need a theme tune for this. Guys, send us in a theme tune. We need a theme tune for our regular segment, Tips and Bits. So if anyone out there is a brilliant sound editor or musician, just send us in a theme tune for Tips and Bits. The odds are we'll probably use it because we haven't got any others right now. So easy access to get on the podcast. All right. Well, let's start with a little a topic of conversation that I know very little about. So this is going to be a Zane conversation straight up the top. So Netflix have revealed that they are doing a Cowboy Bebop TV series, and they have released their first look at Radical Ed. Zane, it's over to you because I know nothing of this, but I wanted to put it in for you specifically.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I am interested to see what this is like because as someone who's been a fan of Cowboy Bebop from, I think it was like 2002, maybe even it came to the West. I think it was produced back in 1998, but yeah, it didn't come to the West for a couple of years due to dubbing and everything else. But yeah, probably one of the best dubbed animes out there. So really interested to see what this live adaptation is like. I know it dropped today, which is the 19th of November as we're recording. So yeah, really interested to see what it's like. The thing is with live adaptations of anime is that historically speaking, it's never very good.
What are you talking about? Ghost in the Shell was immaculate. I'm being sarcastic, guys.
So yeah,
Aladdin's an anime.
Oh my god. It's something that we've speculated on Undisputed Anime Podcast.
I was going to say, for those of you out there who were wondering why I wasn't on the Undisputed Anime Podcast, I just proved it with my Aladdin comment.
There you go.
I was going to do a cheap plug for that as well. It's like, oh, you're going to talk about it on your Undisputed Anime Podcast, the live.
You did tee me up.
Yeah, I was. But then you just took the reins and you just took it like a hungry hound, much like I'm the news hound. You're a hungry plug hound. You like to just get in there and drop the plugs. So
that's me. That's what they call me.
Yeah, is it? What they call it, the captain.
Captain drop plugs.
Cool. So you're looking forward to Cowboy Bebop, and you will talk about it on Undisputed Anime.
Undisputed Anime, yeah. Oh, by the way, on the subject, I went to Comic-Con.
I don't want to do a guest appearance now.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, went to Comic-Con over the weekend, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who said hello to me and approached me and all that jazz. It was cool and nice. So thank you. And if you happen to listen to us for the very first time, welcome. You're in for a treat.
I'm so sorry for this is your first episode, man, where we've talked about ribbed USB cables and drawers full of rubbish, and then the fact that he's got another podcast without me. Yeah, guys. No, it was some great. For those of you who haven't seen it, our boy the Taicho has been putting up some pickies on Instagram of his amazing trip around Birmingham Comic Con. Unfortunately, I could not be there. Not that I wasn't invited, right, Zane?
I mean, I was gifted tickets. So
wow. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Zane confirms that he would rather go free to Comic Con with his actual wife than with his best friend and podcast partner.
I thought you were going to end that with podcast wife.
Yeah. Oh, that's
real wife.
All right, let's move on quickly. We got a lot to cover this episode. So yeah, Cowboy Bebop looking good for Netflix. I guess it'll be another popular show on their channel, and I couldn't give any less of a monkeys about it. Anyway, so moving on. So as we all know, as of filming this on the 17th, Hawkeye is coming out next week on the 23rd. It will feature, obviously, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, and it will also feature Haley Stanfield as Kate Bishop.
Yes.
So there was an interview with Kate Bishop recently regarding the upcoming series. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see who the interview was with. My apologies. 1 second. It was literally with Comic Book Movie. Okay, so this is from comicbookmovie.com. So Steinfeld was asked how she feels about the stage being set to assemble alongside her fellow young Avengers in the MCU.
Yes.
A plan that actually hasn't been confirmed yet. Needless to say, she chose her words very carefully, and here is the exact quote. I mean, listen, this feels so crazy to me right now, just sitting here with this group of people. I'm so grateful to be part of this show and this universe, and it's only the beginning. The show's not even out, so I'm looking forward to that day. Ha ha ha! I ad-libbed her laugh at the end there. But yeah, I think the fact that she said it's only the beginning probably accidentally told you all you need to know about what they're planning with the Young Avengers.
Not only that, have you seen the clip of the conversation?
No, I haven't seen the clip of it. No, I've just seen the quote.
Hilariously, I don't know if it's the same interview, but Kevin Feige is sat behind her, and her first response is look over her shoulder and look directly at him, and he's got like this death glare on his face. Like,
brilliant. Amazing. That is fantastic. I think it's one of the much like CM Punk appearing at AEW, it's one of the worst kept secrets like that they're planning a Young Avengers movie. I mean, we've got Kate Bishop turning up, we've had Ms. Marvel's turning up obviously very soon.
Yeah.
Who else have we got in the MCU?
We've had Scarlet Witch's children.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, Wiccan and the other one, Wiccan and child number 2. I can never remember his name. It's not magic, is it? It's
See, I was going to say Wiz, but I think you're right. I think it's Wiccan.
It's Wiccan and something else. It's really stupid. The other name. It's like, why can I not? What my brain has gone mad. Hang on a second, guys. I need to look this up. Scarlet Witch children. Speed. It is literally just called Speed. It's Wicked and Speed. Wow. That was it. Wow, that's inventive. Stanley was obviously off that week. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we got them. I swear there was more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head, and I don't really want to. So anyway, yeah, Young Avengers is going to happen. It's going to happen probably before the end of. I think they might be Phase 5. Actually, I was thinking.
Yeah, I was just. Well, the stage. Cassie Lang.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Stature. Yeah. The stage seems pretty set for Phase 4 at the moment, just with everything that's going on with Kang, and now the Eternals have been set up. They'll throw in some Celestial mix, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, interesting. Are you excited for the Young Avengers?
Not really.
Yeah, me too. I'm exactly the same. I'm very meh about it. Very, very meh. Anyway, what are your thoughts on it, guys? What are your thoughts? Are you excited? Are you not excited? Are you like us and you couldn't give a monkeys and you'd rather rearrange Zane's USB drawer? Anyway, tell us. Let us know. Speaking of the Eternals, it just keeps on rolling, Zane. It just keeps on rolling. So
yeah.
The Eternals has now passed $300 million at the worldwide box office. Chloe Zhao's divisive superhero epic received a mixed to negative reaction from critics, believe it or not. It's the first Marvel Studios movie to drop to rotten status on Rotten Tomato. It is officially rotten status, but audiences clearly weren't deterred. The film has not been performing quite as well as Black Widow or Shang-Chi, but it's still 300 million is quite a haul. In the US, The Eternals has taken 123.6 million after 13 days on general release. It is faring better overseas, however, and has amassed 176.4 million internationally. That is by no means disappointing, but its domestic haul in particular is being described as soft by some analysts. Zane, your reaction to Eternals making a truck ton of money, but also being softy boys?
It's crazy. Like, for a film that's, dare I say, okay. Like, it wasn't the grandiosest that we were all expecting. Yet something like Shang-Chi was.
Yes, Shang-Chi.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is on Disney Plus now, and I've been really itching to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch it. I think I might get. I almost said my wife's name. Then I might get my partner to watch it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's surprising that Eternals is doing so. Saying that though, have you seen that Marvel have put like a picture of Harry Styles out now? Like they've broken
Eros, the poster of Eros.
Yeah,
Yes.
they've like broken their own rule when it comes to secret endings.
Have they though? 2 weeks is prime for spoilers, isn't it now? Like that's it. So. As soon as 2 weeks is done, that's it. Spoilers go rampant.
But they've never done a picture of something before, right? It's not like
Thanos. They do a picture of Thanos.
Yeah, but Thanos has been knocking boots for a while. He's in more than one secret ending.
What is the Rock said? Clanging and banging. He's been clanging and banging for weeks now. That's what Eros has been doing, just clanging and banging, clanging and banging, clanging and banging for weeks. Yeah, I don't know. It does suggest to me that perhaps, and this is a controversial take, ladies and gentlemen, but get this: perhaps the whole point of the Eternals and the only point of the Eternals was just to set up Harry Styles as Eros and introduce him into the universe.
That's a terrible thought.
It is, but how many Eternals do we have left now?
By the way, I'm just going to mention it here. We've got a few people in the super chats, so thank you, Ice Wolf. Just saying, evening. How's everything and everyone? Well, thank you for joining us. And we've got
Cine, friend of the show. Good evening, Cine Gamers. Welcome in. Nice to see you here. Thank you very much. A fellow streamer. You can catch him on Twitch, guys. Yes. Yeah. Welcome in, guys. If that is the case and they've set up the entire thing, just for Eros, then yeah, I mean, that's not great moving forward for the DCEU, but there we go.
DCEU.
That's not DCEU. Sorry, I was reading the thing the city wrote at the same time. The MCU. Sorry, my bad. So it'll be interesting. Anyway, moving swiftly on from the Eternals. Anyway, which neither of us were particularly impressed by. But staying within the MCU, within the MCU, I think a lot of us could see this coming. However, I'm going to read this whole article out, okay? Because this is very interesting, all right? Bearing in mind the kind of year that's happened. Right? So, at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Los Angeles last night, this is through Deadline, by the way. At the Beverly Hills Hotel last night, Black Widow star Scarlett Johansson became the 35th recipient of the American Cinematheque Award. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige was there to pay tribute to the actress, praising her talent, vision, intelligence, and savvy as both a producer and a performer. However, here we go. Brace yourself. Okay. The executive also dropped quite the bombshell when he teased a top secret Marvel Studios project that will see Johansson re-team with the studio. Before you start getting your hopes up about a Black Widow return, though, Deadline notes that this will have nothing to do with Natasha Romanoff. Johansson, who became the first MCU actor to executive produce a Marvel Studios movie with Black Widow, will serve as a producer on this mystery project as well. Whether this means she'll also star is hard to say, though we wouldn't be at all surprised if the plan is for the actress to help develop a solo outing for Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova, another probably young Avenger at some point, or maybe Thunderbolt, without stepping in front of the camera. This is a direct quote from Feige. Scarlett has lent her talent and star power to the MCU for over a decade. That she's chosen to play a key part in it for so many years, I am extremely grateful for. Working with her has truly been one of the most memorable and rewarding collaborations of my career. Black Widow was released simultaneously, blah, 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 blah. So, she left.
Yep.
She sued.
Yep.
She settled. She's back. It's official. Johansson is coming back into the MCU fold. How long do you... Speculation, Zane. First of all, it's definitely coming back to help out the Florence Pugh thing. I wouldn't be surprised because she understands the characters very well after Black Widow, which was excellent, by the way, guys. If you haven't seen Black Widow, watch it on Disney+. It's excellent. But how long before we get a variant Black Widow coming back?
See, two things sprung to mind. The first one is maybe she directs that film. Her first
Possibly.
credit as a director. Second thing is a cameo, but flashbacks. Like,
oh yeah, very very possible.
That,
but yeah, and it's. I think we all expected her to come back in some form to the MCU once we found out the lawsuit was settled, because frankly, it's too much money to not be drawn back in. And also, please note that they don't actually say, "Oh, she's not starring in anything." You know, they specifically work around it and be like, "She's going to be executive producing," but they don't say anything about like, "Oh, but she's not starring. Don't worry." You know, it's nothing like that. It's like, well, okay. So yeah. Anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on Black Widow returning? I'm happy to see Scarlett Johansson back in the MCU. I found it very hard to invest in her lawsuit because, again, it's rich people suing rich people. But I'm still happy to see that coming back. So sticking with Marvel news, but not necessarily MCU news.
Oh, go on.
So Spider-Man, obviously, the internet exploded this week as Spider-Man No Way Home trailer was released. It's definitely going to have 3 Spider-Men in it, by the way, guys. Watch the Brazilian trailer where it's edited out and you can see the lizard getting punched by air. But anyway, there is an insider, Daniel Richman, who works basically. He's come up with some scoops previously. And he's working with Sony, and this has come out via comicbookmovie.com. So this is we'll speculate on what this could potentially mean, but the speculation is that Sony is working on a live action Miles Morales movie. We're not sure if the project is actually in the early stages of development or simply an idea that's been kicked around, but it was probably only a matter of time before the studio made moves to capitalize on the character's popularity. Now, the reason why I bring this into the news right now, and the reason why it's interesting, is there was an interview this week with Tom Holland. Tom Holland, currently, No Way Home is his last movie as Spider-Man. Solo outing as Spider-Man, I should point out. They're still going to use him for the Avengers and whatnot. However, there is a lot of speculation that his contract being up, this is a negotiation tactic for him to renegotiate his contract. And try and basically angle for more money. So he said this week that perhaps Sony should stop making Peter Parker movies and focus on Miles Morales. And then a few days later, there's a rumor out now that there is an idea kicking around Sony that there's going to be a Miles Morales movie. Thoughts on the legitimacy of this rumor, Zane, and if you think it is real, and also if you think they're actually going to do it?
First of all, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. I've seen speculation from, of course, No Way Home being the perfect setup to introduce a Miles Morales, a live-action Miles Morales. I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one because this is a real hot opinion, but I'm very much on the fence that a lot of the stuff we saw, a lot of the qualities we saw with Tom Holland's Spider-Man was a lot of qualities from the Miles Morales. So unless they do a completely new take, I don't know how they would
potentially
set that up.
Potentially. Who would I mean, if it, let's go full speculation and say, who would you cast?
See, I don't know about young actors, or maybe an unknown like Tom Holland was, because Tom Holland was more of a stage actor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was Billy Elliot on stage. That was it.
Yeah, before coming into the MCU. So they could go down that route. I mean, personally, I've done like a TikTok video on this, so feel free to go to my TikTok and have a look. Personally, I think it'd be
coming out again.
I think it'd be a nicer nod if we got to see Donald Glover in the Andrew Garfield universe. I was going to say Donald Glover as well. He's amazing. It's the issue is that he's slightly old for it now. That's the only issue. But are you saying they were a flip almost of like he's the mentor? No, not so much. But I mean, like, if they were to do a segment where, like, Andrew Garfield, let's say, for example, Andrew Garfield's in this universe, and Doctor Strange put everything back together, and there's like a cut scene to show you like everyone's back in their universe. Toby's back in his, Andrew's back in his, and Andrew gets back to his universe, and who's waiting for him? Donald Glover, Miles Morales, because we know the fan campaign wanted him to be the Spider-Man for that movie. He's the inspiration for Miles Morales because of that campaign. It just kind of be the perfect,
could be
like ending.
Could well be. Yeah, no, that is interesting. That is an interesting thought because they do like to mix things up quite a lot especially in the Sony universe. So yeah, I can see that. I can see that a lot. I think you're right. I think that Miles Morales is so popular, and we know they love to cash in on stuff that is uber popular. Because don't forget, this isn't Marvel. This isn't the MCU. This is Sony doing this. Yeah. So exactly. They're money hounds. They'll definitely go after it. But yeah, interesting. Your thoughts, guys, out there about Miles Morales. So last piece of news that I have this week is it's basically a little tease of what is coming up. So Zane, I believe you've got the picture right there. So we've had one poster this week for The Matrix Resurrections, and now we've got a second one, which gives away absolutely nothing. But the reason why I bring it up is that I think so. There was a little kind of synopsis that came out this week with these posters. So first of all, both these posters have had the tagline "Return to the Source." So historically speaking, the source is where the end of the journey of the one, it ends at the source. So when he returns to the source, that is the end of everything, and it's supposed to reset the Matrix. Yeah. So them using it in the title, I don't know whether that is a subtle nod to say that this is the beginning of the 7th iteration of the Matrix, because the last one was the 6th. I'll give you this little tagline. This is what the synopsis for the film that came with these posters was. Do you want me to do it in the cinema voice? In a world of two realities. So in a world of two realities, everyday life and what lies behind it, Thomas Anderson will have to choose to follow the White Rabbit once more. Choice, while an illusion, is still the only way in or out of the Matrix, which is stronger, more secure, and more dangerous than ever. Ooh. So, bearing in mind that coupled with the source thing, I think it probably is the 7th. We're seeing the beginning of the 7th iteration of the Matrix. Yeah, I'm still curious as to what Keanu is, what Neo is within the 7th Matrix. If they're using the same anomaly this time as the one, or if it is he is becoming like the Agent Smith of the system, where he shouldn't exist, or he is the balance, or maybe he's the balance to that generation's one. We don't know. I'm still 100% buying into the idea that the young Morpheus is actually Niobe in the Morpheus avatar, trying to bring him out of it. Yeah, interesting. Thoughts on the poster? I mean, it's quite a cool poster with the cityscape all in code. But what are your thoughts on it, Zane?
Yeah, I think now is the perfect time to revisit those movies if you haven't already, just to get hyped. I think everyone's on this bandwagon now. This looks good, and yes, I really hope it delivers. And
I'm so hopeful it delivers. Yeah. I will say this, guys, as well, that so I've had some people talk to me on my Twitch stream, and I've had some people talk to me offline that they've said, is it really worthwhile watching all three of them? To know what's going on in Resurrections. You have to watch the first one because it is an all-time classic, and it continues to be in my top 5 movies of all time. Yeah. Reloaded is all right. Revolutions is not great, but there are quite a lot of plot points in Revolutions that I would say that you probably have to know going into this film. So spoilers for films that are almost 20 years old, but you kind of have to know that Neo gets blinded in Revolutions. You kind of have to know that Trinity dies, and you have to kind of know that they take his body away at the end of Revolutions, and we don't know what happened to him. It's these kind of beats that you kind of have to know. But there's going to be some things that you're never going to know, because unless you're a deep lore diver of the Matrix like myself, and like a big fat nerd that I am, Morpheus is killed in an online computer game. There's no way you could possibly know that unless you search on YouTube. So yeah, I can't wait for Resurrections. I am both equal measures excited and nervous at exactly the same time, because I want this to be good. I want the Reeves Naissance to continue, and I want it to be amazing. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But anyway, what do you guys think of Matrix Resurrections? Are you excited for it? Are you not excited for it? What do you think of the news? Is there anything that we've missed this week or have not included that you would like to see included? Get in touch, nerds.undisputed@gmail.com, or just contact us in all the usual ways. Hassle me on Twitch, hassle me on the gram, hassle us on the gram, Undisputed Nerds. Don't hassle Zane, though. He's too busy with his USB drawer. But Zane, what's our main event this week? What are we here to look at? What are we here to do?
Back by popular demand, we're going to do another tier list. And
yes, we are.
This week, we've got non-DCEU movies.
Oh, that's interesting. Have we done the DCEU? Have we?
We have.
Oh, right. Good. I assume we just wanted to give people a bit of a break from DC movies before we did the non-DCEU, right? That's what it was.
I mean, the thing is that, someone suggested this, and I was like, well, I don't know. Do people recognize non-DC movies? But
someone suggested this, and I believe Zane's attitude was, F that guy, he knows nothing. Let's do this instead. And frankly, he was exactly right. So there you go. I'll never doubt you again, my captain.
There you go. So we are going to look at non-DCEU movies. And for those who are unsure,
there's a lot of them.
These are movies that take place in their own pocket worlds, shall we say. They're just old DC movies.
So, Zane, I'm going to make a suggestion here so that we don't spend the next 6 hours doing this tier list.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest that we push together the Nolan trilogy, Burton's Batman, and Schumacher's Batman, as well as the Donner Supermen, and then maybe the 3 and 4 Supermen. And then we can. Okay. I think that will probably get us through it a bit quicker, because otherwise we're going to be here for quite a while.
Yeah.
Would you want to begin?
I'll kick things off with 1989, I believe. Let's just double check that.
No, Superman's first, mate. Come on. Richard Donner's Superman was in the 70s.
I was going to say, because I'm pretty sure Swamp Thing, there's an 89 Swamp Thing, and there's a 82 Swamp Thing. So yes, Superman's first.
Yeah, Superman is definitely first. So let's do Superman 1 and 2 together to talk about these ones, because they're both directed by Richard Donner. Richard Donner famously left the second one halfway through, and then forgive me, the name escapes me of who came in and did the second half of Superman 2. When you talk about influential, quintessential comic book movies of the last 100 years, maybe that's an exaggeration, but certainly last 80 years, I think Superman ranks very, very close to the top. It was Christopher Reeve was Superman, and in terms of kind of archetypes of the character and this perfection of what Superman should be, especially when you look at the time, bearing in mind there weren't no muscle suits back then, guys. There weren't no looking buff or anything like that. Christopher Reeve was believable as this person who was both the epitome of goodness and hope, whilst also being insanely strong. I don't think he really got enough of a showing in the first film to really display that physical power, which is why I'm glad we're including the second one in this, because he damn sure did in the second one. Mm-hmm. I think Christopher Reeve as Superman, stereotypically speaking, nobody, well, apart from Henry, because Henry Cavill's amazing, but once he was cast as Superman, it's amazing because that he was Superman forever then.
Yeah.
And you can talk about typecasting and stuff. He really got typecast as Superman. Like that was it. It was like, you talk about Christopher Reeve, yeah, he's Superman.
Yeah. 100%.
I wanted to say Margot Robbie is this Lois Lane for a minute there, but it's not. It's Margot Kidder as Lois Lane. She was excellent. Like, she was like that plucky kind of adventurous Lois Lane that, frankly, we haven't actually seen again. I do enjoy Amy Adams' performance in Man of Steel and in Batman vs Superman. I did not like Kate Bosworth's performance in Superman Returns, but we will talk about that later. But I think that Margot Kidder was fantastic. I think she was every bit the equal to Christopher Reeve's Superman in the sense of their relationship really, really helped that film. You know, it's almost like you say with we were talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, like either last week or the week before, and we said that like the relationship between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield saved it. And I don't think this film would have worked as well if Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve's relationship wasn't as good as it was.
Yeah.
I would say that maybe where the film falls down a little bit in the first one is Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor. Not bold, but that's a choice. It is what it is. But and we'll talk about this later on as well. But it does seem to become the old adage of it's always a real estate scheme, isn't it, Zane?
It is.
It's always wants a bit of land. I don't understand what it is, but I think Gene Hackman plays it more for not laughs necessarily, but he's very much more into like a kind of campy, almost cartoony, Batman 69-esque kind of Lex Luthor, which I don't personally think works, but it is a great movie. The first movie is great. The other thing that slightly makes it a bit wonky for me is Superman's powers seem to be quite OP in this film. I mean, the way that he can turn back time, for a start, is quite impressive. I don't recall him ever doing that in the books. Yeah,
it's definitely a spectacle. But I guess it's one of those cliches, isn't it? When you write yourself in a corner, you're like, wow, how am I going to work myself out?
Yeah. So the first one is a piece of Americana iconography that needs to be watched if you're a film fan. It's also if you're a comic book fan, because really, I know there were a bit like Batman 69 before it and stuff like that, but this like Superman really was the first comic book movie. And I know there have been, before anyone writes in and says, I know there were other iterations of the character on screen, and I know that there were other but this one, when you look at comic book movies, you can chart their origin back to this. Go on, Zane.
I was just going to say the other thing this film did was used a lot of visual effects to make a man fly, and that was like the tagline for the longest time, wasn't it? That you will see a man fly.
Is it "You'll believe a man can fly"? I think that's what the tagline was, wasn't it?
Yeah, something along those lines, and that's why it was so memorable for a lot of people, because up to that point they've never seen special effects quite like that. Yeah,
it's like the classic with the. God, you're taking me back to my film studies days. Like, it's like when people used to go back in like the 1910s and 20s, and they would watch silent movies, and they would run out of the cinema because they thought the train was going to hit them coming towards them on the screen. It's like you think about that kind of stuff now with our with mobile phones and like tablets and stuff like that, and it's like technology has just been so saturated into us that you don't actually think of like in the 70s people probably had never seen anything like Superman, and we're probably gonna it's funny because like in like what 50, 60, 70 years people will probably look back at Endgame and they'll be like, oh yeah, they're CGI Thanos in that. Now all actors are CGI. Who would have thought? So just quickly on this, this was also another one of those films where it's like arguably the sequel is as good as the first one, if not better. The sequel introduces General Zod, and his minions, who I will not repeat the names of, but because I got them wrong the last time, and it took ages for me to work out what the guys' names were. But Terrence Stamp as General Zod is amazing, really, really good. It also represents a physicality to the Reeves Superman that we hadn't seen in the first one, because he's physically challenged by someone who is just as powerful as he is. I still, to this day, you talk about special effects and all that kind of jazz, I still to this day remember the street fight that he has with Zod's henchman, where he's saving people. And it even, you know what? I can't remember when Superman 2 was made. It's either very late 70s or very early 80s. But like
1980.
80. Okay, bang on. There you go. But yeah, it's still really good to this day. Like, it still holds up, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool what they did there. So again, kind of Lex Luthor and Gene Hackman just get kind of like not different people. Gene Hackman is Lex Luthor, but they kind of get thrown into the mix as like a, the foil. And I do find it kind of weird that like his solution at the end of it is to take away their powers and then murder them. Because he does just seem to throw them into like nothingness. But that's going to be a theme for a lot of these DC films, I think, coming up. But no, Donner's Superman 1 and 2, phenomenal pieces of work. If you are, again, like I said earlier, if you're a fan of cinema, if you're a fan of comic book movies, you need to see these at some point in your life just to say that you have, and to appreciate what has come from them. Because you do see certain tropes of the genre that will turn up later on as a result of these films. So excellent. I would put them as an S, to be perfectly honest with you, Zane, because, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
What had come before them, and how good were they when they were released?
Yeah, I can completely understand that. The only reason I haven't put them as an S is knowing full well how good The Dark Knight is.
Oh, you're thinking of what's to come. Yeah. Okay, well, this is going to be an interesting conversation around Batman 89, isn't it, then? Okay, cool. All right. No, fine. I will be magnanimous this week and say it's an A. I don't agree necessarily, but I'll compromise. I think yeah. Okay. That the more I say it, the more bitter it tastes in my mouth.
Okay, cool.
Moving on.
In terms of release, the actual next movie was Swamp Thing.
I thought you were going to say Joker. I'm like, no, it wasn't, Zane. You've got the wrong list. Swamp Thing. Man, this is a film I've seen once, I think.
1982's Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing is always a really contentious I guess a D, maybe a C. I don't know. It's always a really contentious character for me, Swamp Thing, because he's technically so he's a guy who I forget who the alter ego's name is, but he's a guy who goes to the swamp and gets basically mutated into the earth and becomes protector of the green.
Yeah.
I.e., he needs to protect the earth, which why he never hooked up with Poison Ivy, I'll never understand. But there you go. He's not. I would say that Swamp Thing isn't. If you start with Superman, I would argue that maybe the studio. I don't know what the agreement was or what they were doing, but like Swamp Thing isn't necessarily the best character to translate to film second. No. Is this the Swamp Thing? I always get this one confused with the other one they did, where it's like, is it quite violent? Is this one quite violent, or is it the other one that's quite violent? There's one in like I think it's the late 80s one, maybe it's 89 one, that's very violent and has got like people melting in sludge and stuff like that.
So to the 89 one, the synopsis is that it's very tongue-in-cheek. Very tongue-in-cheek sequel. The beloved creatures fall in love for a vegetarian, plant-loving daughter of an evil scientist who created him.
maybe it's this one that's is it 82? Is the first one.
So after a violent incident in a special chemical, a research scientist is turned into
swamp. It's that one. It's that one that's the violent one. So I think if you, again, a lot of these films you can see. So we discussed it a little bit with the Fox movies and also with the DCEU, but like a lot of these films are especially comic book movies before Batman 89 came along. A lot of them are influenced by the time. And at this time in the 80s, you look at the general kind of like Hollywood genre of things. Horror films and slashers were super hot at this point in time. You're coming off the back of Halloween, which was in 79. I think the first Friday the 13th had either just happened or was close. Freddy, I know, like Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 84, so that was fast approaching as well. And I think some studios might have been looking to cash in on that with their own kind of like movie monster, you know, that but like do a twist where he's like a good guy, but it's also a horror film. Blah, blah, blah. So like I remember this, I do remember this first one being quite dark and gothic. Does the second one have Heather Locklear in it?
Let's have a quick look.
Because if the second one's got Heather Locklear in it, it's kind of more of a pastiche parody kind of thing.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay, I remember. So yeah, the first one's not great. It's so not great that I barely remember it. So yeah, it gets a D. The things to point out is that it's somewhat faithful in the sense of like, you know, he does merge into the swamp and then become this like protector, I guess, of the swamp. But he's a really hard character to translate to film. Is Swamp Thing. He really is. He needs to be with others.
And the other thing as well, like I think this is during the time of the Alan Moore run.
Oh right, okay, which was super popular.
Yeah. So it would make
sense. Yeah, they cashed in
into that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, I'm happy for it to be a D.
The next one that was released was Superman 3.
Oh, Superman 3. Can we please put Superman 4 in here as well?
Whilst we can we here?
Yeah, 3. It's next to Dark Knight, that one.
Yeah.
Can we just put these two and discuss these two together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Superman 3. Superman 3 has some really good points. Okay. So the good points are. Hold on.
Okay.
It does Bizarro.
Yeah.
Where Superman splits in two and then fights himself in an excellent junkyard fight. It's very good. It's got Superman getting drunk.
Yes.
At a bar. That's good. Richard Pryor being Richard Pryor for the entire of the movie, except his name's not Richard Pryor. Something else, but it is basically Richard Pryor. I'm a tech genius. It's got Lex Luthor doing a real estate scheme again.
The Grand Canyon this time, right?
The Grand Canyon this time, yeah. And it's got one of the most terrifying scenes that I ever watched as a child, which was a lady getting turned into a robot woman.
By the supercomputer. I often wondered if that supercomputer is supposed to be Brainiac.
If it is, that's awful.
Yeah, I
know. So basically what happened was the studio, after the success of Superman 1 and 2, decided, we've got a cash cow as Superman, so let's churn them out, baby. Let's churn out the Supermans. Sequels are hot. We've just done Friday the 13th, 279. Let's do Superman 3, 4, 5. Let's just keep going until Christopher Reeves is not around anymore. Hooray! And as a result, Superman 3 was born. Richard Pryor was also white hot at the time, so they thought, let's throw money at him and put him in. We didn't talk about Brando in the first Superman either. How much of a get that was.
Yeah, that's true.
That is a failing on our part. So just to go back a little bit, guys, talking about Superman 1, Marlon Brando was, again, ultra hot at the time of the first Superman. It was he famously got paid, I think it was $1 million.
Was it really?
It was some astronomical figure to be in Superman as Jor-El. And he was only in it for like 5 minutes as well. He was barely in it. But like getting him was a big pull. Like it was a big pull to get him in. He was like much in the same way that the X-Men getting Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen was a big sway. Getting like Marlon Brando to do that was a huge thing, which drew it in. So apologies for not talking about it when we talked about the original films. Going back to something slightly less original, Superman 3. I mean, it's fine. Like it's not an offensive movie or anything like that. The dip in quality is very, very obvious. Yeah. Very obvious. I would put it as a C personally. Yep. I don't know about you, Zane. It's got some redeeming features in it. The Superman-Lois Lane relationship gets downplayed a lot. Mm-hmm. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, on the other hand, well, now, that, if we're talking about art, ladies and gentlemen, well, never has a Dolph Lundgren wannabe looked so good in a radiation suit as the bad guy in Superman 4. So Superman 4 was about it. What is it? Is it The Quest for Peace? I think that was the subtitle.
Yeah. So Superman goes around the world and gets rid of all the nukes.
Because that's what democracies do, guys. They have a Superman who comes around and picks up all their nukes and then throws them into the sun, which wouldn't create a solar flare or anything like that might erupt in the Earth's face. Regardless, in doing this, suddenly the real estate mogul, Lex Luthor, that's right, folks, he's been a real estate mogul for these first 3 films, but now he's turned into a geneticist. And he knows that the way to do it is to get this mix of Superman clones and all this other stuff and to put it on a nuke that's going to the sun. And he creates Nuclear Man, who can fly, who's got all these weird powers, and what else has he got? Growing fingernails that can poison Superman.
Oh.
It's awful. Put it in a D.
Yeah.
The sad thing about this is it was Christopher Reeve's last performance as Superman before his tragic accident, many years later. And he would never be a Superman again. He did appear in Smallville. The man was an absolute legend who did so much for charity and was an inspirational figure both in and out of the suit. And I think that whilst we make fun of Superman 4, his legacy as Superman will never be forgotten, and he is an incredible. He was an incredible first for this show.
Definitely. One thing we slightly missed is that between 3 and 4, we had the release of Supergirl.
God, Supergirl. Oh, Supergirl. Kara L, is it? Kara L. It's Kara L, isn't it?
Kara Zor-El.
Oh, it is Zor-El. I couldn't remember.
After losing a powerful orb, Kara Zor-El, Superman's cousin, comes to Earth to retrieve it and instead finds herself up against a wicked witch.
Is that literally the plot line?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was the famous Wizard of Oz Supergirl crossover. This is another film that I have only seen once. It's awful. It's really bad. It is literally like, this is a classic example again, and it's kind of similar to Swamp Thing. I assume the sequel as well, but where it's like they've clearly written a script for something else. Like, it's clearly not a Supergirl script, and they've just gone, oh yeah, let's just plaster an alien over the top of it. There you go. It's like, oh yeah, she's learning how to be a woman, but she's an alien. Oh, that'll sell, won't it, guys, around the Hollywood studio? Yeah, we know what women want. Idiots. Yeah, it's not a good film. Why they didn't tie it in with Christopher Reeve Superman? Does he appear at one point in it? I think he doesn't. He have a very minor cameo at some point.
I don't think he appears in it, but I think what it is that there's a poster of him in her friend's dorm or something, and that's where she gets the inspiration of the costume.
Why wouldn't you tie it in with Christopher Reeve Superman? Like, it's easy money. It's such easy money, Zane. The character of Supergirl she's great, but as an introductory piece, you should theoretically really establish that she's his cousin, and he does guide her. That's the whole point of when she comes to Earth, because it's the ultimate irony of the fact that like she's supposed to be the one who's looking after him, and he ends up being the one who looks after her. Like that's the whole like twist on it, on the whole story, just because of time, and space and wibbly things. So yeah, Supergirl's not good. Put it in a D. It's terrible. That film was so bad that we haven't seen a Supergirl movie since. And it took the TV series to get to the point where we're like the TV series with what's her name,
Melissa
Benoist or Benoist.
Yeah.
Melissa Benoist. That's it. And she like that's actually, I mean, for the CW anyway, it's actually a good TV series. So they're now back to the point where they're talking about it again. But like, yeah, not good. I feel like there's going to be 2 movies that came out in the same year here. And I would like to talk about the worst one first.
Okay.
So let's get Batman '89 out of the way. No, Swamp Thing. Let's get the other Swamp Thing out of the way. I guess again, it's a film I've only ever seen once. They took a jokey character, what they thought was a jokey character in Swamp Thing. And they were like, well, the first one didn't succeed as a horror, so let's turn it into this weird, like, love drama with Heather Locklear, who's hot at the time. And, we'll make it all like, oh, he can't have her, but he wants her. And she's in love with a monster. And but don't worry, guys, she's vegetarian, so it's all good.
Yeah. How will they coexist?
Yeah. Classic 80s oddball romance. Again, I think quite a few of these films, the best examples of the comic book genre are films where there is a total understanding from the person writing, producing, and directing of what the character's origins and source material is. And they either honor that or they do an interesting take on it. Mm-hmm. You can tell when somebody doesn't really have a grasp of a character and they go, oh, this genre's good at the time. Let's slap that on the top of it and it'll work. And it's like, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. There's a reason we don't talk about Swamp Thing to this day as the all-time great comic book movies,
Exactly.
So, yeah, D. I don't remember enough of it. I think I've seen it once, maybe.
The thing is, for me as well, I often get this mixed up with, I think it's called like Toxic Warrior.
Avenger.
Oh, Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger, yeah.
Came out in the early 90s.
They're remaking it as well. The thing about so just tangenting just slightly. Toxic Avenger, Toxic Avenger is an ultra. It's from Trauma Studios, who make notoriously like B movie like ultra gory films, and they're terrible. But the first Toxic Avenger is actually all right to watch. It's nothing special. Don't get me wrong. But that led to the creation of one of my favorite 90s cartoons of all time, the Toxic Avengers, which only played for one season. So I will forever love the Toxic Avenger for that, because I love that TV series. And the toys that I got from that when I was a kid, oh, Nelly. I loved the guy who had a big nose and he kept snotting all the time. It was great. Swamp Thing, couldn't give a monkey's, mate. D. Done. Nice. Did anything else come out in 1989? Zane?
Only Tim Burton's Batman. I don't know if you've heard of
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
It starred like this comedian called Michael Keaton. It was like
Birdman.
Yeah.
Oh, I know Birdman. Yeah.
My
God, what can you say about Batman 89? So let's put it with Batman Returns and talk about them, because Batman Returns came out in 91. So we've kind of, I think it was 91, might have been 92.
92.
Okay. This was the beginning of, this was the genesis, I would say, of comic book movies turning into hotness, the new hotness.
Okay.
So when we talk about Batman, we need to talk about a couple of things. So first of all, Batman is technically, at the time, he was the second hero for DC, Superman being their first. Obviously, the last thing that people had seen of Batman was the Adam West 1969 Batman, which was uber campy and uber popular. for the time. And then Tim Burton came along and said, I want to do Batman, but I want to do him darker. We'd just had Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns as far as the comic books were concerned. So Batman's always been popular. His character arc is incredible. He's an inspirational character in a different way, and it's born more out of tragedy than it is hope. But when you talk about this film, there's a lot of things to consider. So this film, first of all, the backlash of casting Michael Keaton was huge. When you think, it's ironic when you think about DC characters and things like that, you look at things like Heath Ledger, which we'll talk about later on, but when they are cast, there is huge backlash. And then when it comes to the film, they knock it out of the park. There was, I can't remember what the figure was, but like the internet of the day, letters, people wrote in, I think there was like 30,000 or something like that letters that were written to Warner Brothers HQ to complain about Michael Keaton's casting as Batman. For various reasons that I won't go into here. And when you look back on it now and you laugh your ass off as we're about to have Michael Keaton return as Batman. He was, I would argue, Keaton's probably thought of and regarded as somewhat of the definitive Batman because he was the first. In the same way that Sean Connery is thought of as the definitive Bond a lot of the time because he was the first. I don't agree that Keaton's the definitive Batman. I think that if he wasn't good in the role, it wouldn't have worked. He was very good at being Bruce Wayne. Very, very good at being Bruce Wayne. His Batman is fine. It's serviceable. It's fine. His Batman really didn't talk a lot. And that's the irony is, like, it's a thing to notice as well, Zane, is not a lot of people or not a lot of films have really delved into that. Batman's a detective, which is why I'm so excited to see The Batman, because if we finally get to have this situation where it's not just an animal in a cowl kind of thing, and it's like, no, he's a genius, like he's an actual genius, and he is a strategist, like above all other in the world. Like we'll finally get to see that, and it's never really portrayed that way in Batman 89. It's kind of like Bruce Wayne is this genius guy, and then he's got this dark persona that becomes Batman.
I think the main reason for that, for the longest time, they called Batman the crime fighter. Like that was, Adam West Batman is Batman the crime fighter, the Cape Crusader, and similar with this. So for the longest time, like you say, we see him fight crime, but we don't see him do a lot of detective stuff, even though that was his debut comic, was Detective Comics.
Detective Comics, I know. Yeah. I know. Like, he's literally dubbed the world's greatest detective as well, several times in the comic, and Ra's al Ghul calls him Detective. Like, that's literally the whole thing. But, I can understand. I think a lot of this was kind of course correction from the 69 Batman to say, this isn't your grandmama's Batman. But yeah,
very stylized as well, which again is kind of different from anything else that came before it. Tim Burton obviously has his own certain style and such, and that's what he brought to this movie in such a grand stage. But
yes, and I think as well it's interesting because you can kind of look back on it now and say, the 89 Batman and Batman Returns, they're very Tim Burton movies. Like when you look at his style and you look at his genre, they are extremely Burton-esque. Like you can you can point at them and just go, "That's Burton, right there." Yeah, lovely bit of Burton, that one. Just from the Gothic architecture, the cinematography, the lighting effects, even the models, like the models, like the cathedral that they build for the final battle with Joker, like the whole thing is just completely Tim Burton-esque. Expanding on the casting a bit, you got Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. Yep, fine. I mean, there's nothing to write home about. It is, her performance is fine. It's just what it is. Where this movie goes kind of over the top, off the rails, is they only went and got Nicholson, didn't they? They only went and paid over $1 million for Jack Nicholson to come in and be the Joker with his phenomenal suits. I mean, Nicholson in Batman 89 is a tour de force of scene-chewing hammery that, but in a good way. In a
Yeah.
good on the Richard E. Grant scale of acting talent, he's managing to just dodge Spice World. He really is. You know, and but in a good way. In a good way. You know. For those of you not familiar with that scale I just used, go back and listen to some of our earlier episodes. But yeah, I think that for the time, nobody else could have been the Joker. I know some people have talked about Robin Williams being the Joker and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you're talking about Robin Williams being the Joker because he's a comedy character he's a comedian in the first instance, and then you're looking at the Joker as like a comedy character. Joker's not a comedy character. He's not. We'll talk about it later on, but like the Joker is a person who is a sadistic, horrible person, like a real monster of a person who thinks doing horrific, sadistic things is funny. Like that's the point. That's the whole point of it. You know, it's he thinks life is a joke. Like the whole thing is a joke, and anything
punchline.
Exactly. Anything that is morbid, twisted, like wrong, anything that sows, insanity is hilarious. So of course he's going to do it. Of course he's going to do it. So yeah, we'll talk about Batman Returns a little bit now. I adore Batman Returns. I think that I think I actually prefer it more than the first one.
Okay.
Danny DeVito is incredible in Batman Returns. I mean, incredible. People will look at Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman and say, yeah, that was good casting and everything like that. She's really good. Like, she is good. It's a very different take on Selina Kyle. It's very much a superhero-y origin take on Selina Kyle. You know, she's when she becomes Catwoman, it almost instills Selina Kyle with this confidence that she never had before, kind of thing, and she becomes this super heroine. And it's like, that's not what it's like in the books. Like, that's not what it is. Whether or not Catwoman has some kind of supernatural powers or not, and has 9 lives and you know, cat-like reflexes and all this other kind of jazz. Yeah, okay, that's up for debate in whichever things you look at. But at the heart of it, Catwoman is a jewelry thief. That's what she does. She's a burglar. You know, she doesn't hurt people. She doesn't kill people. She just breaks into places, steals what she wants, and then leaves. Sometimes she doesn't even do it for the money. She just does it because it looks pretty and she loves to steal. And I think that was lost in Batman Returns. Or whilst I do love Michelle Pfeiffer's performance, and you know, and that suit is very iconic. I've talked a lot, Zane. You talk a bit more.
For me, this is a great Christmas movie. Again, knowing Burton's style, doing Nightmare Before Christmas, it just delivers in the same way, you could say. But it is, again, a very tragic story for all 3 characters. It's a tragic story of the Penguin and his parents. It's a tragic story of Selina Kyle, this woman who's been on the straight and narrow her whole life and then gets, you know, pushed aside.
Out a window.
Yeah, basically. And it's the tragedy of her life, really, being the stepping stone. And then you've got Batman, of course, who is dealing from the tragedy that we all know from his parents' death. So it's just like this massive, like, Christmas tragedy.
Just to add in there as well, you've also got Scrooge McDuck in Christopher Walken's Max Schreck, who is a beam of force throughout this film as well. The things that I would say about these films is that with the sequel, I would argue that Keaton does people are going to get angry with me for saying this, but he does paint it by numbers a little bit. Sure. He doesn't really enhance the character. It's very much what we saw from the first one. There's a little bit of like comedy play with Alfred, where Alfred serves him fishy soir, where it's like cold soup and he doesn't realize it's cold soup, which is like Batman would never, he would totally realize it's cold soup. I'm just saying. But like, there's no real kind of, do you know what I mean, Zane? There's no like, like character development. It's just kind of like, this is Keaton's Batman. We know he's going to do certain things. We know he's going to murder people.
I think the main reason for that is because it's so driven from Catwoman and Penguin. Like, it is very much their story.
And that's interesting you say that, because that is something that we'll look at at the end of this, but I have an argument about one of the best Batman movies is Batman Begins, because it actually focuses on Batman as a character instead of the villains, which all of these films focus on Batman's villains. Needless to say, I think both Batman and Batman Returns. Well, so from the point of view of another side of things, Batman 89, without Batman 89, merchandising of comic book movies as they are today would not exist. Because you talk about Star Wars going merchandise crazy. My God, did Batman have a lot of tie-ins and merchandise heavy craziness? You know, everyone who was a kid wanted the 89 Batmobile. It's one of the most iconic designs in history. You know, and it like they're just cool, man. Like they're cool films, and they're, you know, Batman looks great in it, especially at the time. You're thinking, wow, like somebody could actually be Batman. You know, you watch that and you're like, somebody with money could really legit do this. I personally think 89 should be an S. It is a phenomenal movie. It's amazing. I think Batman Returns should also be an S, but I'm happy to be challenged on that. Thing is, if you make that an S, you've got to make Superman 2 an S.
That's what I was thinking.
A. Put it as an A.
Put it as an A.
Yeah. I think for what it did for the entire genre and for the casting, the film itself, I can go back and watch Batman 89 any time and just still enjoy it to this day. It's a perfect movie. I could also do that with Batman Returns, but it wasn't as genre defining for what we see today in modern cinema, and still holds up to this day as well. Like, you know, it's like Superman doesn't really hold up necessarily, but it's still fun to watch, kind of thing. That's my argument for it. But you know, he's arguing. He argued against Superman, guys. I just want to really hammer that home. I wanted Superman as an S, but he argued against it.
I'll tell you what would be an S if it wasn't so terrible.
Oh yeah.
Batman Forever.
Okay, so this one, we need to lump this one together with Batman and Robin, because this is the Schumacher era.
It is, yeah. I'm going to start off by saying I actually enjoy...
That's exactly what I was going to say. Go on.
I actually enjoy...
Forever.
Oh, I enjoy it, but I enjoy Val Kilmer as Batman.
Okay.
I can see why they chose him. And again, you know, popular actor at the time. This is like 95.
Yes.
You know, famous from Top Gun and some other movies. I won't go into too much detail, but
because you can't think of them.
I can't think of them.
He done like a weird like spy pastiche movie that I can't remember what the name of it was now. Top Secret, I think it was what it was called, or something like that. But it was very well received. Or was that Carrie Ells? I always get him and Carrie Ells confused.
Yeah.
Ignore me. Carry on. Val Kilmer, good as Batman.
I thought he was decent Batman. Like, again, he played it by numbers. I wouldn't say he did anything exceptional with the role.
I would argue that he was a very good Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
He was an okay Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Much with a lot of these, we're gonna hit the same notes. Good Bruce Waynes, okay to bad Batman.
Yeah,
and that's where it comes to. And I know that sounds a weird thing to say, guys, but the character does change when he's in the cowl, and depending on how you play it, it can either be a good change or a bad change. I will say that Val Kilmer was the closest thing I would say to getting a good Batman that spoke like. What I'm trying to get at is that like Batman himself is a character. Like it's not like you have to play them as two different people. It's Bruce Wayne and it's Batman. You know, they are the same body, but they are two very different people. When that cowl goes on, he's not Bruce Wayne anymore. And the thing about the Val Kilmer Batman that I always had a problem with is physical dominance. Like Batman can kick anybody's ass, even Superman.
Yeah.
I look at it and I'm just like, I don't believe Val Kilmer could kick anyone's ass.
I'm trying to remember if he has that many fight scenes in it, thinking about it. I know Chris O'Dowd? No,
Chris O'Donnell.
O'Donnell as Robin has quite a few fight sequences, because there's the one where he steals the Batmobile.
Yeah. Well, let's go through. So this Batman Forever, it was, so Schumacher took over the reins from Burton, who didn't come back for the third film, although he almost did. It was a very close run thing. Burton almost did the third one, and so did Keaton, but they bowed out at the last minute due to studio differences. The studio wanted to make a more family-friendly version of Batman to appeal to a broader audience, so that they could bring in more kids, families, whatnot. So they thought the best way of doing that would be to return to a campy 60s-esque Batman, where it was much more of a not a jokey thing, but like much more lighthearted and not so much of a serious thing. This coincided with the astronomical rise of Jim Carrey in Hollywood. He was the star at this point in time in Hollywood. Like, he was fresh off of Dumb and Dumber, which was, he'd gone from Ace Ventura to The Mask to Dumb and Dumber. This was his latest one. It was quite a star vehicle for him, really, because if you watch this film, a lot of the focus is on the Riddler, and a lot of the focus is on him. They decided to boost up the star power. They added in Tommy Lee Jones. Why am I speaking weird? They added in Tommy Lee Jones. They added in Nicole Kidman, who were both massive stars at the time. As you said, Val Kilmer was a big star. And then they brought in Chris O'Donnell as Robin, who wasn't really a big star, but he did his best. Bless him. Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones is not good in this film. He's really not. Tommy Lee Jones is trying to be Jack Nicholson's Joker. He's failing. He famously has said he hated doing it. He hates Jim Carrey. he called him a buffoon apparently at a dinner table. He absolutely hates it. He said he only did the film because he wanted something that he could show his kids, because all the films he'd made at that time was like extreme violent ones, and things like The Fugitive and stuff, which you can't really show your kids. The plot is very weird. It's a weird plot. Riddler's stealing brainwaves of people across Gotham and learning secrets. It was just campy, weird pastiche, like craziness. I will say that we've just had a comment dropped in by Ice Wolf, and I really hope it's sarcasm, because that is not going to be what it is. Batman and Robin is not getting an S ranking. I'm sorry, it's truly an Oscar-worthy movie. I don't think so, my friend. I don't think so. I think Batman Forever's okay. Like, Batman Forever is watchable, at least, as something different from the Burton movies. I don't mind Chris O'Donnell as Robin. I really don't. I think he's fine. He's an all right Dick Grayson. He's not amazing, but he's not terrible. Zane, what's your thoughts on this one?
It might be the nostalgia talking, but I'd actually pop it in a B.
Well, you're an idiot. Put it in a C.
Okay.
You can't put that in a B, man. Like, I mean, I know what you mean, because we both this was probably when you and I were both like in our like what, 10s, like 9s. I was 10 when this movie came out, so I loved it. Again, like you said, I remember everything else around it. U2 making a song, Seal making a song. Oh, that U2 song is banging as well. Hold Me Through Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me is one of the best U2 songs ever. All right, put it in a C. In a B. Sorry, you've convinced me. Put it in a B.
The Sega game.
You've convinced me. It's a terrible Sega game. That's making me want to put it back in C. Stop talking now. Say you've done it. You've got your way. Just let's move on. Batman and Robin, D. Instantly D. Put it in a D straight away. Do we need to talk about it?
I think it needs to go in C.
What?
I think it needs to go into C.
If you put that in a C, you have to put Quest for Peace in a C, and you have to put Move Superman 3 up.
No.
Exactly. D.
It is definitely a C.
It's not. How is it a C?
It's so memorable.
Don't listen to that guy, Ice Wolf. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It is not a C. Batman and Robin is awful.
It's terrible, but I think it's
What is this? Hang on. Are we doing a tier list based on memorable or whether or not it's good?
Look, it's definitely
Come on, justify it. Go ahead. Justify Batman and Robin. Categorically speaking, the film that killed Batman for 10 years. Go ahead.
It had George Clooney, hot at the time, straight out of ER.
Who was an okay Bruce Wayne and the worst Batman we've ever seen. Go on.
It introduced a whole new line of toys.
So did Batman Forever. So did Batman Returns.
But this is brand new figures.
So by that,
you get a Batgirl this time. You get
by that token, Green Lantern deserves to be an S.
It had Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, how many superhero movies can say that?
How many superheroes want to say that? Amazing Spider-Man 2 had Paul Giamatti. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, Ice Wolf. Whilst I appreciate your opinion, you're not part of the show right now. There's no way it's getting an S. Ever. No way. Zane, this is terrible. This is awful in so many respects. So let's start with some egregious ones. Mm-hmm. So as far as us being comic book purists are concerned, Nightwing is Nightwing without being called Nightwing.
And has a cape this time round.
Yeah, exactly. it's the Nightwing outfit with a cape, and they call him Robin. Okay. He falls in love with Batgirl, which is fine, except Batgirl's not Barbara Gordon. It's Alfred's niece from England who doesn't have an English accent.
Yes, that's very true.
Oh, sorry. Is this a saving grace for it now, is it? Alicia Silverstone is so shoehorned into this film. I'm surprised they didn't just call it Batman and Robin, They're Clueless. They might as well have. George Clooney is fine as Bruce Wayne. Terrible as Batman. Awful. Just awful. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the worst, absolute worst in this film. He's immediately setting his sights on the governor campaign for California. He's out the acting door. He doesn't care anymore. He just wants money.
Yeah.
Uma Thurman, while she's incredibly hot and influenced my teenage years, is awful in this. And just playing this weird Eartha Kitt-esque Poison Ivy from the 60s. It's awful.
It's awful.
They fight in an ice cream factory at one point.
But then, would you rather watch all these films that are on D than watch Batman and Robin?
Oh, you mother...
Because for me, Batman and Robin is probably just as terrible as Superman 3.
Why would you do that?
I mean, if we're measuring, we got to measure...
Whoa, nobody said anything about measuring, mate. Jeez.
Or tiering.
I was going to say, I'll put the ruler away. Fine. You win. Put it as a C. But I want you to know that it is highly under-digressed that I say that, because that hurts that you've done that to me. That hurts.
You're going to go through all the emotions tonight, aren't you?
You put this off by 3 weeks just to do that to me.
I mean...
You're a monster, Zane. You're a monster. Oh, my captain. What a betrayer. All right, guys. Please write in. Guys who are out there who are with me, that's Batman and Robin should be a D on the tier maker. Write into us and let Zane know, because he doesn't listen to me. He never has, and he never will. You know, I need to get your wife to write in so that you'll listen.
My wife and my mum.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only two people who can possibly make you listen. Ice Wolf, it's done. It is what it is. It's been decided. Don't side with Zane. It's only going to feed his ego.
The people hear me.
Moving on.
Talking
Moving
of
on.
terrible movies.
Puns live forever. Oh, there he is. The wedding boy is on our chat. Drac Aris has messaged in. Hello, Drac. I was going to give you a special little shout out because Zane, I don't know whether you're aware of this. We did give him a little shout out a little while ago, but this weekend it is a certain somebody's wedding day tomorrow. So congratulations at this point in time, our sometimes co-host of the show, Jack Aris, for getting married tomorrow. He's finally found a lady to take him away from me, and it breaks my heart. But buddy, I hope it is a fantastic day, and I am very sorry that I cannot be there for you. But you are in my heart, my friend, and I know that Zane sends you the best.
Likewise, yeah. I hope it's a great day, mate, and congratulations all around.
Right, that's enough sappy. Anyway, it's Catwoman next, isn't it?
It is Catwoman next, yeah.
Put it in a D. Please put it in a D. You're going to kill me if you don't. Yeah, so this is Halle Berry. Again, it's a sign of the time. It's a vehicle piece for Halle Berry. Mm-hmm. She was hot at the time.
2004.
2004, yeah. So this was off the back of X-Men 2, I think, and it was like she just done Monster. Did she just do Monsters? Is it Monsters Ball?
Yeah.
That she won the Oscar for. And basically, the studio took it as an excuse to say, "What's the skimpiest outfit we can put Halle Berry in and have it be legitimate?" Oh, it's a Catwoman outfit. Let's do that. So she's not Selena Kyle in this. She's not a traditional Catwoman. I can't remember what her Catwoman name is, though. Forgive me. She's got full cat powers. Yes. We all know that cats can climb on walls and across ceilings. She's got full cat powers.
A shy woman endowed with speed, reflex, and senses of cats walks a thin line between criminal and hero. Even as a detective, pursues her fascination by both of her personas.
Okay, read that first sentence for me again. Up to one key word.
A shy woman endowed.
There we go. That's it. That's all you need to know. That's all the studios were thinking about. That's all they were thinking about at the time. It was just like, we've got Halle Berry. Let's just put her in an outfit that reveals her boobs. That's it. That's all the motivation for this movie was. And that's about as memorable as it is. It's terrible. Moving on swiftly. Now, is it Constantine next or is it Superman Returns?
It is Constantine.
It is Constantine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I may be controversial on this one. I would like this one to go in a B.
Wow. Do explain.
So, traditionally speaking, in the books, Constantine is a British man with blonde hair. He is very much not Keanu Reeves. If you can get past that, this movie has got some really awesome parts to it, and it's actually quite a well-structured film. It's nothing that's going to set the world on fire. It's not an A. It's not an S. It's nowhere near that. Like, nothing to do with that. Keanu Reeves is really good in it, and it was one of his post-Neo roles that was like everyone kind of saw him as Neo. But again, if you get past that, if you can see it for what it is, it's actually a really fun supernatural movie. Rachel Weisz is in this as well. She's excellent. She's excellent in it. And it's just a really nice introduction to the character. And I think it can hold up certainly against Batman Forever. It can hold up today. I think it's a good film. And it's definitely better than Superman 3 and Batman and Robin. Come at me, nerds.
The only thing I've got to say about it is I don't think it's that memorable. Because, dare I say, round about this time of 2005, we've got Hellboy sort of vibes.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be like this at the time. There was like this wave of like movies that kind of almost felt like they went straight to DVD. Like, again, films like Hellboy, even though they were great commercial, this feels like it's one of those movies. Again, movies like Dread, even though it wasn't the same time, but it feels like one of those movies that does exceptionally well on home release compared to like in cinemas.
I would. So I'm going to ask you two questions. Well, no, I'm going to make one statement and then I'm going to ask you a question. So movies like Dread, the reason why Dread did not perform was not because of the movie. It was because it had awful marketing by the studio because they didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
Say what you want, but if people don't know that a film is coming out, they won't go and see it. That is the bottom line, you know. Dread, the only other thing that Dread had done was Judge Dredd, which was Sylvester Stallone, and everyone knew that one, and everyone thought it was awful. Dread, starring Carl Urban, is a phenomenal film, and I rewatched it again the other day. It's amazing, and it frustrates me so much to this day that we're not going to see necessarily more from that universe. I'm waiting with bated breath to see Mega City 1, the TV series, because apparently Urban's going to turn up in that from every now and again, which is great. Okay. I wanted a Judge Dredd sequel which had Judge Death and the Four Horsemen in it. I really wanted that really badly, because I thought in the Dredd universe that could have been incredible, really visceral, really horrible, just proper what 2000 AD Judge Dredd should be. So that's my little rant about Dredd being over. I understand what you're saying to me. There were a number of them, like Sin City is another example of that, where in the mid 2005s that was like a super hot kind of out there cartoon movie where this comic book bubble was clearly inflating at a rapid rate. You say Constantine doesn't have very memorable scenes. It's got the scene where he puts the spider under the glass and breathes into it and says, "Now you know how I feel." It's got the scene where he stops his own heart to communicate with the angels and demons. It's got the scene where he's in like the hellscape and has to kind of save the soul of the person who's being dragged down to hell. There's a lot of really memorable things in this Constantine movie. Please, for me now, Zane, my question to you is, name me 3 memorable scenes in Batman and Robin.
Yeah, sure. So there's the bat bomb as the rocket shoots up from the museum, which had the dinosaurs, where Mr. Freeze shoots and he says, "What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age." Who could forget Bane in a monkey suit at the auction of the diamond? And this is the moment where George Clooney's Batman revealed the Bat card, the credit card. And then let's not forget the giant telescope that both Nightwing and Batgirl hang off, and Batman has to reach out to try and save them, but they learn to save themselves with their grapple hooks. And it doesn't matter, because when they get to the top, the whole telescope falls down the cliff edge. Ladies
and gentlemen, I'd like to announce my retirement from the Undisputed Nerds podcast after that disgusting display that Zane has just... The most memorable moment of Batman and Robin is Bane in a monkey suit.
I mean, I didn't even get to discuss, the new outfits that they have just in the final act of the movie.
That's specially tailored for this scenario in the final battle. Constantine is staying as a B, my friend. If you're getting Batman and Robin as a C for Bane in a monkey suit, then this is staying at a B. I'm sorry. There's no two ways about it.
Fair enough.
This next one's going to be hard, though. Yeah. Superman Returns. He did, didn't he? So this was Bryan Singer, who we can't, it's difficult to talk about now, based on revelations that have come out about him. I know technically, I think Batman Begins was chronologically before Superman Returns. However, we're going to talk about them in a package deal next. So Superman Returns, they couldn't have got an actor who was more like Christopher Reeve without getting Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, very true.
Brandon Routh he's very similar to Christopher Reeve. They did this almost as like a Halloween 2018 reboot kind of thing, where it's like it was a direct sequel to Superman 2, where he'd left the Earth and gone away and then was coming back.
Yeah.
I don't like this film. I really don't like it. There's 2 parts to it that I remember, and they're probably the same 2 parts that everyone remembers in the film. The first one is where he's stopping some bank robbers, I think, and it's like he's getting shot by a minigun and they shoot him in the eye and it just like pings off his eyeball. He'd still blink. I'm just going to say that right now. He'd still blink. Something going right in his eye, mate. The second part is him. Probably before Man of Steel, easily, but probably one of the best depictions of Superman saving people, which is when he saves the 747 from crashing. That is an amazing, like, it's still amazing. I know that some people say, oh, it's rubbish. It's still amazing to this day. Like, it's excellent. And all the physics look really good in it as well. Like the idea that he'd try and pull on the wing and he'd end up snapping it off by accident and then making it even worse. And then he has to try and save it another way. And then, like, coming on the plane at the end and going, statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to try. That is perfect. Like, that's absolutely perfect Superman, where it's like he gets you through this whole tragic event and then reassures you that this will probably never happen again, so don't worry about it. So he Brandon Routh, to his credit, does a good job as Superman, being Superman. Like, he tries. I think he tries to be a bit too much like Christopher Reeve's Superman, which is where it kind of falls apart for me. Kate Bosworth is not good as Lois Lane. I'm sorry, I don't like her as Lois Lane. She's just not a good cast for her. I thought when he was cast, Kevin Spacey was excellent casting for Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
But he is a weird amalgamation of, like, campiness mixed with over-the-top businessman.
Yeah.
You can tell that he's the father of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor in the Batman vs. Superman. The famous meme that's just been turned into wrong comes to mind. But I mean, a curious thing, again, it's another mystery of what's Zane? What's the bad guy's motivation in this one?
It is more land.
What?
Because there's no more land, so he creates his own bit of land.
It's a Lex Luthor real estate scheme in a Superman movie. You're kidding me. I've never seen the likes.
But he goes one step further this time by infusing kryptonite with it.
Yeah, it's not just a land grab, it's a land make. He literally creates his own land. I think the problem with this film and the problem I have with it is Bryan Singer. It was Bryan Singer's love letter to the Richard Donner Superman films, and it's very much a almost take for take kind of Superman 1 and 2 amalgamation weird thing with an extra plot point of he's got a kid thrown into it. It doesn't work for me. I know a lot of people loved it at the time and they were all like, oh my God, Superman's back and it's amazing. It didn't do well at the box office. It didn't sell well. And it's not great. Brandon Routh is probably the best thing about the movie, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he is really good as Superman, but very specifically as a Christopher Reeve generational continuation of Superman, it's not a D. It is, I really believe it's a C for me, I'm afraid, speaking personally.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's some incredible action sequences in that movie. Like you said, the plane catching, my favorite sequence is how he saves the city as the earthquake happens. Because of the new island, because of the island that's being created. So you see him almost zoom around the city, and like one of the sequences is like shattered glass is about to fall, and as he's flying, he's lasering the glass so it doesn't hurt anyone at the same time. Just some phenomenal sequences I like.
Yeah, that is good. I'd forgotten about that, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's pretty good. I haven't forgotten about the bit where he lifts the kryptonite island out of the sea and throws it into the sun. Kryptonite, the thing that takes away his power. But that's fine. Let's go with it. It's not great.
Plus, who cannot forget the sequence when he does return to Earth and then he flies just outside of out of the atmosphere, closes his eyes, and he hears like the whole world crying out for help, and then he just
right, yeah,
great sequence.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? He wouldn't go and see Lois. He'd go straight to the atmosphere. Yeah. Okay, it's a C. So, well, I mean, now we come on to I think the word iconic is an appropriate choice of words for this. It's Green Lantern. No, it's the Dark Knight, guys. It's the Dark Knight trilogy. Oh man, where do we begin, Zane?
Start with Batman Begins.
Clear, yeah, obviously. I was being facetious when I said it. So Batman Begins came out in 2005. It is I can't say it is my favorite because it's not, but it is one of my favorite Batman films of all time. It charts the journey of Bruce Wayne from tragedy to becoming Batman. It is the first Batman movie to actually focus on Bruce Wayne and Batman as a character. And it is brilliant. Interesting choice to put him with the League of Assassins, the League of Shadows, and have Ra's al Ghul be his mentor. It's got a wonderful twist halfway through where you realize that Ducard, who has trained him for his teenager to adult life, is actually Ra's al Ghul. He's been a baddie all along. It was me, Austin. Christian Bale is, I think, the closest thing we've had to a really great Bruce Wayne and Batman. Where he falls down, his Batman is, again, not the best. Because of the way that he wanted to play it, because he wanted it to be like Bruce Wayne is a intelligent businessman who's also a playboy millionaire who he does all these things like pulling girls into fountains and whatnot. But he wanted his Batman to be feral, like he wanted his Batman to be like an animal. So as soon as the cowl goes on, he's like this angry, like feral beast kind of thing that just wants to devour criminals and that side of things. And unfortunately, it's reflected in the voice that he chose to do for this, which has been widely renowned as the Bat Growl. It's not great, is it? The voice isn't great.
No, the voice isn't great, but this is the first time it's been seen in live action, because up to this point, the only interpretation we had where there's been a Bruce Wayne voice and a Batman voice was the Batman animated series. It was
very true.
First time that Kevin Conroy tried to do a different voice for Batman.
The unsung best Batman, Kevin Conroy. Very true, Zane. I mean, look, that the Bat voice aside, and the questionable use of the Batmobile being the tumbler, which some people like, some people don't like. I personally like it, but I know some people are not a fan of it. Batman Begins was amazing. It was so well done and so well written by David S. Goyer and I think Christopher Nolan's brother. I think James Nolan, is it? I can't remember. Anyway, regardless, it doesn't matter. Nolan's brother. Christopher Nolan directed this perfectly. He grounded it. That's what the difference between this was versus everything else. He grounded it in reality. So when you talk about a comic book movie, Batman Begins exists in a realm where it's like, this isn't necessarily your traditional comic book movie, because it was a serious art house piece of work, really. It was a genuinely arty movie, which also doubled up as a comic book film. It was Nolan's take, because Christopher Nolan has his own genre of cinema. You can see it with Inception,
Absolutely.
You can see it with Interstellar, Tenet, everything. It's a Nolan film. However, this was his love letter to comic books and Batman specifically. I think that Cillian Murphy does not get enough credit as Scarecrow. I think his portrayal of Jonathan Crane in this is fantastic. The twisted mind of Jonathan Crane and wanting to just experiment. Because he's a bit of a lackey for Ra's al Ghul, it falls apart. It's one of Liam Neeson's best performances, I think, personally speaking. I think he is phenomenally good as mentor and turned villain Ra's al Ghul.
Absolutely.
The thing that doesn't make it quite so perfect is what's her name? Kate. I want to say Kate Hudson. It's not Kate Hudson.
Holmes.
Katie Holmes. That's it. She's not great as the love interest in this. Rachel, she's fine. She's nothing. She's nothing special. I don't mean that in a nasty way. I'm just saying, there's nothing really memorable about her performance and character in it. It's kind of, I think the most memorable thing about it was this was the year that she announced she was marrying Tom Cruise. So that was kind of whoop-de-doo. And the action sequences in this were a little bit kind of like sickeningly jerky. Like when you watch them, it's kind of like the quick cuts and stuff are really disorientating, and it takes you out of it a little bit when I watch, personally speaking, because I'm an old man. Takes me out of it a little bit, but it's amazing. It had one of the, Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon as well is brilliant. Like he's so good in it. He's so good in it, and I like that they did they showed the partnership between Gordon and Bruce Wayne. Gordon and Batman as they both rose. You know, because it's like it wasn't just Batman who came up on his own. He couldn't have done it on his own, so he had to have Jim. And it had the best sting ending of a film I have seen for a very long time. With Gordon introducing him to the Joker card and talking about escalation. Now that you're dressed as and you're wearing a mask, running across rooftops. I think I can probably do. I'm not going to, but I think I can probably quote that entire last monologue with Jim Gordon because I watched it so many times because I was so excited to see what they did with Joker and if they ever were going to do it again. Yeah. Did they ever go any further with it, Zane?
Yes, they did. To touch on.
I was going to say, look, what's your thoughts on Batman Begins? I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is okay. The only things I was going to mention was the introduction of slightly not skew, but unpopular characters. Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow. I'd say was probably popular enough to be recognised. But
Falcone,
like Lucius Fox,
Carmine Falcone, the mob boss.
Falcone, yeah. Lucius Fox again, not something that people would have recognised, but to have Morgan Freeman as well to play as Lucius Fox. Again, just just kind of push that character into the zeitgeist, really. So
it's such an ironic thing that you called him Lucius Fox if he's the one who makes all his outfits.
What a tailor!
I tell you what, he's got it.
Is
it as good as Batman Returns?
Is it as good as Batman Returns?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say yeah.
It was a great. Okay, so The Dark Knight is going in S 100%. There's no question in my mind. 100% that can go in there already. Mm-hmm. It's the other two that I'm contentious on. Now, don't get me wrong; they are perfect films. Like all together, it is the perfect trilogy, and it is phenomenal. Yeah, put it in S. You're right. I've just talked myself into it. Put it in S. Because without Batman Begins, there wouldn't have been any of the other ones. Okay, yeah, you're right. Lucius Fox was a great introduction to the Batman mythos. Sorry, not to the Batman mythos, to the movies from the Batman mythos. Without him, Wayne Enterprises would not run properly, arguably. I love Batman Begins. I think it's great. And then came The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you talk about perfect movies, there are very few examples of that spring to my mind. Matrix is one of them. Mm-hmm. The first Star Wars is one of them for me. This is personally speaking, obviously.
Sure.
Obviously, Sylvester Stallone's Judge Dredd. Perfect movies. But The Dark Knight is and was and will forever be something very, very, very special to me. Mm-hmm. It's a phenomenal piece of cinema. Like, it's just so well done. Christian Bale gets kind of like, well, first minor detail that they introduced, Batman can turn his head now. What a revelation was that? After 60 years, he can finally turn his head in an armor suit. That was great. I don't know where to begin with The Dark Knight. I really don't, because anything I say won't do it justice. I don't know. I mean, it's been incredibly well documented how iconic Heath Ledger's performance in this film was as the Joker. Mm-hmm. Not a traditional Joker either. He's an agent of chaos in this. It is not a It's not the Joker that we all kind of recognize really from the books. It's a
No.
very different, real Joker. It is a real Joker. He could exist, like, very easily. This guy could exist. We won't go into real life tragedies or anything like that, but like, it's very possible for this guy to be very real and very scary. They recast Rachel
Yes.
with Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Mhm.
Much better casting, because she's really good in this. Christian Bale evolves the character of Bruce Wayne and Batman. We see hints of Batman going outside of the realms of what you could argue is decency and his personal remit. The example of this is like he breaks international laws by going to Hong Kong
China.
and getting a fugitive back. Like that's you could argue that that's not something that Batman should really be doing. There's the argument of sonar being an invasion into privacy, because it uses every single mobile phone in Gotham, and it's unethical and wrong, but he needs to do it to stop the bad guy. I apologize if you can hear some banging in the background, guys. I think there's fireworks going off near me, so I'm sorry about that. There are fireworks going off near me. I'm sorry if that's picking it up. So we see some interesting insights into Bruce Wayne and Batman as to the questionable ethics that he sometimes employs in his ways of taking down villains. This film, we haven't even talked about Michael Caine as Alfred either.
That's true.
The Alfred Bruce Wayne relationship in this is finally a proper reflection of the comics, where Alfred is his let's say enabler. If you look at Batman being an addiction, Alfred's the one who enables it, but he's also like a father figure to Bruce in the absence of his parents. The story is just so beautifully rich and flows so nicely from beat to beat. There's never, with the exception of maybe the ending, possibly. No, even the ending's good. No, forget it. Forget I said that. It's just such a deeply woven, intricate, nicely written story where it's like there's highs and there's lows, but it never feels dull. You know what I mean? There's never a part where you're sitting there going, I wonder when this is going to be over. It's like, you get like steady beat of action, steady beat of plot, steady bit of action, steady bit of plot, steady beat of action. It just works so perfectly. The sequence where the Joker takes out a bunch of people and then he has a Barmy with the Batmobile in the tunnel is amazing. That's so good. The bit with God, there's just so many parts to this. There's so many bits. The truck flip, when truck flips were still cool. Zane, tell me a bit about your thoughts of The Dark Knight and Nolan's trilogy.
It's just so well layered, and the depth of it as well. We haven't even just mentioned Two-Faces in this. A completely new take on Harvey Dent. Bruce's almost outlook that there may be there may be a Gotham that doesn't need a Batman anymore, because
of
there's
Harvey.
a Harvey Dent. There's that whole sort of character journey. There's so many different elements, and at the same time it's phenomenal to watch. And like you said, the action sequences, it does a similar thing to Spider-Man 2, Raimi's Spider-Man 2, where it's kind of like action, plot, and it just constantly rinse and repeats throughout, because the opening sequence with the bank heist, of course the chase sequence like you just mentioned, and then you've got like the Bat Pod that's basically a copy cut from Akira. It's amazing.
My favorite part of this film, and my favorite part of the entire trilogy, actually, it's going to sound really weird, but it's the interrogation scene between Joker and Batman. It's the perfect clashing without fists, even though Batman does beat the hell out of him, but it's the perfect combination of this particular Joker's conniving, scheming strategy against Christian Bale's Batman's overpowering will and force, and which one is going to win out. It's amazing. Like, it's just so well thought out, and everything is so well put together. The Aaron Eckhart does not get enough credit for his performance as Harvey Dent in this, and the slow slide into Two-Face, and then his performance as Two-Face as well is excellent, because that he's constantly a battle with himself, and that's the whole point of Two-Face, is that it's not cut and dry. Harvey Dent is a decent man, Two-Face is a monster, and that's the whole point of it. And it's the ultimate tragedy that he has so many bad things befall him in when he was younger that eventually push him over the edge, and all this psychological like horror coming out in his later years. I can sit down and watch this anytime, and it's amazing. It's a perfect film, and it deserves an S ranking 100%. Dark Knight Rises, it had so much to live up to, so much, almost impossible to live up to, really. I mean, I don't think it was going to be ever as good as The Dark Knight. But it comes pretty close, I have to say. It is very good. The first, I think, Batman Begins was all about the origin of Bruce as Batman, with a little bit of some Head of the Demon storyline thrown into it with Ra's al Ghul, and then just Scarecrow thrown into the mix as well. Dark Knight was literally supposed to be a pastiche almost of The Long Halloween, mixed with, I think, maybe a little bit of Face to Face from graphic novels, from what I can remember. But yeah, very much Long Halloween-esque, just taking out a lot of the main villains, and you have this like exhausted Batman. And then Dark Knight Rises, they kind of mix Nightfall as a story, which is famously where Bane snaps Batman's back in half, just kills him like a string of spaghetti, just snaps him right across his knee. And they also throw in elements of No Man's Land, which is an often underrated Batman story that I don't think gets enough credit, which is, it follows on from Batman Cataclysm, where it's a 9.8 earthquake or something like that hits Gotham and just demolishes it basically and cuts it off from the rest of the world, and then Gotham becomes a no man's land. Dark Knight Rises is definitely, it's definitely an A. It's whether or not you think it's an S with the rest of the trilogy or not. That's the question.
See, it's tough for me because I find this almost like a movie of two halves, because I'm like, the pursuit of Bane, drives him to that point where, again, Bane overpowers him, and similar to Nightfall, because, again, Bane watches Batman for the longest time, then takes action. And wow. It's similar to this to an extent, where Bane takes his armory, he breaks his spirit and then breaks his back. It's just the recovery that I always I struggle with. Yeah,
I know what you mean. So yeah, there's a couple of really distinct difference. So in Nightfall, the comics, the way that he breaks Batman is that so Bane causes a prison break at Blackgate and at Arkham, and floods Gotham streets with the most notorious villains that he's faced. And Batman has to systematically take down all of them. And it's after he's taken down all of them and he's at his most exhausted is when Bane strikes and is able to beat him and snap his back in half. And that's what is it happens in the books. And that's what leads into Jean-Paul Vallée taking over and being the Batman, but this crazy Batman. And Bane can't take him because, it's Jean-Paul Vallée at full strength and like he's just insane. Dark Knight Rises, it's 7 years after the event of Dark Knight because people blame him for Two-Face's death and Harvey Dent's death, and they say that he's the enemy, and they've poisoned everyone against Batman. And so Bruce Wayne is not physically fit. His legs are destroyed. He has to use a special a special
brace.
Brace. Yeah, brace. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. He has to use a special brace in order to walk properly. And he's basically out of training and unfit, and that's how Bane breaks him. Like it very easily as well. There's some questionable takes on the Bane character, the mask not being Venom, It's you're not using the drug venom to enhance the strength this time. It's more of an anti-pain medicine kind of thing that's being constantly fed into him. I agree with you. The back thing is a weird thing because it's almost like, how do you solve paralysis? Oh, you just pop your back in. There you go, sorted, no problem. It's a bit contentious. This was in the years of the internet really becoming a dominant force for comic book driving as well. So like everyone could tell what the twist was coming up when Marion Cotillard was hired, and she was like this nameless person, and everyone's like, well, she's Talia then, isn't she? And lo and behold, of course, she's Talia al Ghul. What were your thoughts on Anne Hathaway as Catwoman?
I didn't like her.
You didn't like her? Okay. I would argue that Hathaway as Catwoman was a much more comic accurate Catwoman than we'd had previously.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I felt like she may have overplayed it at some points.
I would agree with that. Yeah, okay. I'm happy to leave it as an A. The ending as well. Because Nolan obviously likes to leave things ambiguous with his movies. What's your belief? Is Bruce Wayne dead or alive?
I think he's alive.
Okay. So you don't buy into the popular fan theory that Alfred is having a post-traumatic hallucination in Italy and seeing him at a dinner table with Christian Bale's with Anne Hathaway. You don't believe that one?
No.
It's quite a sad image, isn't it? Just Michael Caine with a little drink going to nobody,
to a stranger.
Yeah. You're supposed to blow the bloody doors off. Right. Anyway.
Hello, mate. It's me. Hello.
I will say this: the Dark Knight is, as far as comic books are concerned, the Dark Knight is the perfect trilogy, perfect comic book trilogy. There has not been anything before or since that has been that perfect encapsulation where all three films in their own right are excellent. And all three films can be watched, but it tells us such a completely rounded, great story with all of them. It's amazing. We could go more into it, guys, with Dark Knight Rises, but we won't, because it's already been a long podcast and we've got two more to go, and these two more are going to take it out of me. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, you talk about complete rounded stories, and they don't get as rounded as Green Lantern starring Ryan Reynolds.
I've never wanted to swear at you so much on the podcast before in my life.
When did this movie come out?
2011.
2011.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's seared onto my brain. For those regular listeners of the podcast, you will know that I am a diehard Green Lantern fan. I adore the character of Green Lantern. I adore all four of Earth's protectors. Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, John Stewart, obviously. Kyle Rayner. I do know them. But no, it's this film. Oh God, where do I begin? Okay, so this film was, in terms of comic books, this film came up right at the time when the War of the Rings were going on, or the War of the Light, I should say. So it was knee deep in. We just had the Battle of the Sinestro Corps, so the Green Lantern Wars, basically, where it was like Sinestro had formed his own Yellow Corps. And he was going against the Green Lanterns, and then the Red Lanterns popped up, and we had the Blue Lanterns, and suddenly it was all kind of happening. I'm making it sound really jokey. It was amazing, and it was an amazing piece of comic book work. And it was Jeff Johns had a vision that he started in 2006 with Rebirth, and it was going to culminate in Brightest Day, which was his final run of it. Technically, he did keep going actually after that with War of the Lanterns, War of the Corps. Anyway, sorry, I got lost in my own headspace then. Anyway, regardless, Green Lantern in the books was super popular at this time. Super popular. So I guess they wanted to cash in on this. Now, I did see a video earlier on, which was an interesting one, where apparently, so do you know why Ryan Reynolds was in Wolverine Origins?
No. Do tell.
So he was told and tricked into it because he was informed that if he appeared in Wolverine Origins, they would give him a solo Deadpool movie.
Really?
Apparently so. That's the reason why he did Origins, was because he was told if he does Origins as Deadpool to bring some star power to it, then they will give him a solo Deadpool movie. And they then took Deadpool and turned him into what they turned him into at the end of Origins. And it was awful. And then Ryan Reynolds was like, well, I can't do anything with this right now. So in an effort to kind of like play on a character that he kind of found slightly interesting and do what he wanted to do, he thought, oh, well, Hal Jordan's kind of jokey, funny. I'll be a Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
And that's why he was Green Lantern. Green Lantern is it's a hard one to translate to film, I will say that. Because Green Lantern's power is he has a will. He has a will. He does have a will. He has a ring that will create anything he wants from willpower alone. That's quite a hard thing to translate onto cinema. Yeah. Because how do you have something equally as threatening when you can just create anything to neutralize it, like instantly?
Yeah.
So in the books, there was always this big joke about Green Lantern over the years, which was Green Lantern's, like every superhero has his weakness, you know. Like Superman has kryptonite, Flash has running normally, Ezra Miller. You know, Batman is just a man. Yeah. So Green Lantern's weakness was the color yellow. He could not stand the color yellow. He was disgusted by it. Mustard on his burgers? No, thank you. Ugh.
Weakness.
Weakness. So anything the color of yellow could permeate these will constructs that they created. And it was quite a big flaw, really. Because all you needed to do was come along in a yellow suit and you'd ruin a Green Lantern. Jeff Johns took the interesting approach, and a very clever approach in my estimation, to say that, okay, well, the reason why he's a Green Lantern is that green is the color of will. So if your manifestation of willpower was outside of your body, it would look green. And yellow is the color of your fear. So yellow is your fear that if you had to pull it out of your body, it would be yellow. If it was your anger, it would be red. If it was your greed, it would be orange. Yeah. So they took that and Jeff Johns went, so all lanterns have this like ring that is powered by a lantern battery that recharges all of their lantern energy and into the ring. And so he said, okay, well, these batteries, let's say that the entity that is controlling of all fear, like in the universe, is in these batteries, and that's what's creating the impurity for all lanterns across the universe, and that's why they can't stand the color yellow. And then at some point in the books, actually, the yellow impurity gets taken out of that batteries, and they're no longer weakness to yellow. And that entity was called Parallax, and that's the reason why I talk about it, because the main villain in this film is actually Parallax, the entity of fear. Now, in the books, Parallax is represented as something of like a cockroach. It's like a giant cockroach with like spindly limbs, and it looks horrible. It's a horrible, horrible thing to look at. Really disgusting. In this movie, Parallax is represented by a poo cloud, everyone.
I can't even remember what it looked like.
It's a big cloud of poo, Zane.
Is it really?
I don't mind if you want to pull up an image whilst I'm talking about it right now, because it is one giant big poo cloud. Go for it. It's also got Hector Hammond in it as well. So Hector Hammond is kind of a psychic mind controller guy, similar to kind of MODOK in the way that he's got a really big head in the books. Like he's a big-headed guy. But he's got psychic powers, basically. But in this, they say that his psychic powers have been influenced by Parallax. Ryan Reynolds is amazing as Deadpool. There's no two ways about it. He is quintessentially Deadpool and was born to play the character of Wade Wilson. He was not born to play the character of Hal Jordan. He is fine in this. He is not great. Carol Danvers is played by his actual real-life wife now, Blake Lively. They met on this film, and they got married after this film. she is fine as Carol Danvers. Again, not great.
Carol Ferris.
Carol Ferris. Thank you. Sorry, not Carol Danvers. That's Miss Marvel. God. Yes, Carol Ferris. Star Sapphire. I just want to call it the whole way through because that's who she is. Regardless, she's not great, but she's okay. Taika Waititi is in this film.
Yeah.
As Hal Jordan's special friend. Again,
yes, he is.
It's fine. It's not great. And again, we talk about memorable. Just this film is not memorable. Like, you can't even remember who the bad guy was in it. Kilowog was Michael Clark Duncan, which was absolutely perfect casting. Amazingly done. Like, really, really well done. The voice was perfect for him. You had Tom R. Ray, who was like a bird, like Green Lantern, was played by Jeffrey Rush, I think, in this film. Again, another amazing casting. The absolute peak, and you know exactly what I'm going to say, the peak of casting in this. I talked about it recently on one of our other podcasts as well. Mark Strong as Sinestro was chef's kiss casting. He should have been Sinestro. He was an excellent Sinestro with awful writing and awful plot basis. The whole film tells the story of the origin of Hal Jordan as Green Lantern. So the strange alien crash landing on Earth and bestowing the ring to him. It's a classic origin story of Green Lantern, and it was fine. It just wasn't well put together. You can tell that the people who were making it really didn't have any love for the source material or really know what they were doing with it. Parallax was not good, not well thought of, and not well created. You know, that you can't, in the books, you can't stop the entity of fear. It just doesn't have the entity of fear is powered by the fear of everyone in the universe. and Ryan Reynolds managed to hit him with a ring, and that's it. He's dead.
Movie over.
It's not good. Did you see the poo cloud, by the way?
When I had a look, the closest thing I could find is when it possesses a man.
For goodness sake. Hang on. Yeah, Hector Hammond. Yeah, hang on. I'll find it. You talk a bit about the movie.
It was a bit of a weird watch as well, because like you say, in terms of the constructs, I remember there was like a Hot Wheels at one stage that he constructs like a toy car going around a track sort of thing. I know in the final act he constructs like 2 jets in space, sort of thing. Okay. And that was kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He's a pilot. Why wouldn't he think of like 2 powerful jets?
Yeah, exactly. I've just sent you the image of the poo cloud parallax on our private chat on the stream. If you want to bring that up, then you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Actually, you know what? Before you pull that up, Zane, let me just hang on. Let me just get it. Let me just get you the comic version of it first.
Okay.
So that we can do a quick comparison as to whether or not this was a good thing for them to do. Okay, so this is this second link that I'm putting in there, Zane, the Wikipedia one. That's what Parallax looks like in the comic books. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm all for adaptations of characters and making them look slightly different from the comics. That's fine. You know, it's okay. But let's just have a quick analysis for those people who are looking on YouTube, and let's just see if this is a good representation of Parallax.
You had a look at that page.
No, is it not loading up?
It's a Wikipedia page on cameras.
Oh, it's loaded in the wrong thing. Hold on one sec. You can see in the link that the thing I was getting to. Hang on.
I think I've got it. Here you go.
There. Yeah, that's Parallax on the right. I've just sent you another picture of it if you wanted to get that one up. So that's what Parallax looks like in the comic books, all right? Mm-hmm. Okay, Zane, now click on the image that I just sent you. That is the movie Parallax. It's a poo cloud, Zane.
It is. It looks like a golden poo more than anything.
It's delightful golden poo. We've all had those in our lifetime.
With an angry
With an angry, yes. Do you think so? Flip back a second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a good representation of Parallax on screen?
I would say no.
No, and that kind of rings true to the source. Like they didn't have any respect for the source material. It just wasn't a good thing. The weird organic armor of the Green Lantern as well, and the strange mask on his face. It just didn't work. It didn't look good. I personally would like to put it in a D because I hate this film and I love the character of Green Lantern. It's not good. I wouldn't go and I haven't, and I wouldn't go and watch it again. I wouldn't even watch it if it was on. It disgusts me that much, but you might think differently.
No, I completely agree with you. I don't think I've sat and watched it a second time since its release. So yeah, that's a fair estimation.
And then finally, non-DCEU Joker.
Yeah.
B.
When did this come out? Let's have a quick look. Was it
2019?
2019. Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
2019's Joker.
Oh, is that it? We're done. I don't even have to justify it. Lovely.
All I was going to say is this wasn't the movie I was expecting. No. Like, I honestly thought it was going to be a little bit more. He was going to be more of a menacing presence to opposed to sad things happened around him.
I have said this to you for many, many times on this podcast. Joker is a gangster movie with Joker slapped over the top of it. Mm-hmm. It worked because Joaquin Phoenix is incredible. Yeah. And he's very, very good at being a mentally unhinged person who just happens to put on clown makeup and is a circus clown for a living. But it's interesting. This is almost, I like to attribute this is almost a Killing Joke version of the Joker in the sense of like, it feels like an origin piece from an Alan Moore book where one of Joker's famous quotes is, if you're going to have an origin story, I prefer mine to be multiple choice.
Yeah.
And this feels like it would be, if he was telling an origin story, this would be one of Joker's multiple choice origin stories as to how it happened. I don't know what to say about this other than it's a tour de force. There's a reason he won an Oscar for it because he's phenomenal in it. I love the slow mental degradation breakdown of like he has this whole relationship with Zazie Beetz in it, who's his next door neighbor, and then it turns out he doesn't actually have that relationship with her. It's all in his head before he eventually kills her. It's incredible, and it's a really interesting plot device to see the degradation of this character into this psychopath. Where this film falls down for me is the ending, where suddenly everybody loves Joker. I hate that. Again, I get it that it's in his head. Like they think, ultimately it's all in his head and stuff like that. But Joker doesn't want that kind of admiration either. He hates it when people laugh at him. Like he hates it in the books. Like it's like it's disgusting to him when people laugh at him. It has to be in the right context that they are. So the idea that they would be cheering for him, he would love it for about 5 minutes and then get bored and murder everyone. So there's that. The most egregious thing for me in this film is how they shoehorn in the Thomas Wayne murders and the Bruce Wayne origin into this film. It's just disgusting because it's like, I get it. Like the Wayne murders are one of the key historic events in Gotham, and it's one of the key tragedies that propel the city into this wave of darkness that Bruce is the one who has to bring it out of. But by the same token, don't shove it down our throats. Just focus on what you're focusing on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a weird premise that he started the events that would lead to Bruce's parents' demise.
It's ridiculous. Like I don't like that. That's one of the things that the Nolan films did very, very well. It was to say that because the Burton movies are guilty of this as well. It's like Joker and Batman. They are the way they are linked is because they are arch nemesis. Like that is why they're linked. They're not linked because they created each other. They're not
No.
linked because they have some weird bond to each other from years ago. They do have a weird bond, but it's only because they kind of love each other in a weird kind of way. Like Joker loves Batman and needs him to be able to survive because he's his double act. Like he's the straight man to Joker's Joker. And like Batman always needs a nemesis. Like he always needs something to stop, and Joker is always there for him, which is why Batman never, well, the argument could be is why Batman never kills him, apart from the Burton films. But this film did not need that. Like it was not set up like that, and it doesn't get any better because of it. I would still see it. Like I'd still say people go and see it. It's still a tour de force for Joaquin Phoenix, and he's an incredible actor. It's just not. It's not my cup of tea, this one, and I feel like it's too much of just a generic gangstery movie with something slapped on the top.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a great homage to Scorsese movies.
Yes.
You know, your Godfathers, your Taxi Drivers, whatever, any of those movies. It's a great love letter to those. But it's like you said, it's exactly the same as those movies, just with Joker slapped on the top of it.
Completely.
So yeah, it's a good film, but it's not it's not the Joker.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the Joker we all know and love necessarily. Well, guys, that is the non-DCEU films tier listed by us at Undisputed Nerds. What do you think of our tier list? Have we lost the plot? Should Batman and Robin been of D? Yes, it should have. Write in and tell us why you agree with me. It's a hell of a look back at the years and how the DC universe has changed so much, and also what things have been brought about by the DCEU and the changes that have been made from that. I do find it fascinating that we're now going back into the thing that we can see from this as well is that there's a lot of like big style franchises mixed with single note chances. That's what I'm taking from this tier list. You know, you've got stuff like Swamp Thing, Supergirl, Catwoman, Green Lantern, single origin chances that didn't necessarily pay off. And then you've got them going back to the well with their big franchise hits, Batman, Superman, that you know they'll always make money off of. Yeah. So now that they've got other things like Joker that did make a boatload of money and is a single shot kind of thing, I wonder where they're going to go with it. And will we see another big franchise like Pattinson's Batman, you know, creating cash cows for them whilst they diverge out with maybe some other unknown films? Who knows? Who's to say? But tell us what you think. nerds.undisputed@gmail.com.
Absolutely. Or just use the comment section down below, as we like to read your comments. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Definitely interested.
Zane, I can tell this one kicked your ass. It's exhausted you. I can see it. You know, I don't know what to tell you, my friend. This was almost as grand as the Fox one. Yeah,
that's very true. It's very true.
I think we are gonna do some more of these, but we're gonna do them for your benefit and for ours. We're gonna do them slightly segmented. So I think we're gonna do like the Marvel universe, but not all 21 films in one go because we'll die. So, yes. But I think we were going to do like phase one, weren't we? We were looking at doing phase one Marvel, and then we'll do other like comic book games and stuff like that. We're gonna go back to the well with these tier lists for a bit, guys, because we have a lot of fun doing them. Well, speaking personally, I'm not talking about Zane.
At the same time, we know that you enjoy them because we see all the likes, the comments, the shares, which is fantastic to see. So we're glad that you get just as much enjoyment out of these as we do.
And if there's any tier lists you want to see us do, guys, then let us know, and we will look at it and go, oh my god, I can't do that. It's going to kill me.
Rank the Lex Luthors over the years.
Oh wow, that's an easy list. They're all in D.
Cool. Well, I guess that's this week's episode. Let's not forget you be streaming on Twitch.
I will be. Yeah. I will be. I'm already half an hour late.
Still playing Avengers?
Not tonight. It's Friday Night Fright, so I'm going to be playing Layers of Fear.
Ooh.
It's a horror game about a painter, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah, see how it goes.
Definitely. As I said, all the relevant links will be in the description down below. You can check out my YouTube channel. You can check out Undisputed Anime channel. And not forgetting, you can check out our other channel where we've done reaction trailers to Spider-Man Homecoming and all the news about Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and
Ms.
Marvel.
It's a good time. Moon Knight looks amazing. I can't wait. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao for now.